Welcome to Mental Wealth, the podcast to invest in your mind. Here I will help you make sense of your mind and behaviours, giving you the tools to have your best life. There is so much to share, so let's get into this episode and explore another great topic. Welcome to episode 41. In this episode, we're going to dig deep and have a look at the relationship we all have with money. I've got a brilliant expert for you and I can't wait for you to listen. Hope you enjoy it. Well, Philly and I met recently at an event, and even though you're focused on money and kind of finances and things, I'm obviously very interested in how people get through life, I suppose, really. And money has such a big part in that, doesn't it? And for me, the relationship that we have with money, but also the impact that money can have on relationships. And I thought it would be a good topic for us to cover on this show. And who better to have in is somebody who focuses on all of those things.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Brilliant. So tell everyone a little bit more about you and your background and who you are.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm a financial coach with a background in investing. So I've been in the wealth management industry for 12 years, and I predominantly help women with their finances. Lately, I've had quite a few couples come to me too, though. So, I'm serving quite a lot of people on all sorts of issues. I think money is such a taboo topic. It's still not really talked about. A lot of the industry is not designed to be easy to understand. And so I like being a bit of a translator and also help people get to the bottom of what might be sort of holding them back.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think that's the thing when products, if you like, are being sold to somebody, it is having that understanding of what that actually means. And I know for some people, it does really stress them out.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can hear the same words coming out, stressed, anxious. Some people, really do worry about it. And again, it's that point about not talking about it, not bringing it up. Then it sort of festers, and then, you might become secretive about certain things or just, worry. And then, the impact that then has on your life is quite negative.
I think the something that I see quite a lot of is how each, especially if it is a relationship, but not necessarily, maybe in a family, how people have a different view of money. Some people in a couple somebody might be a big spender and the other one's a real big saver, and that in itself can create a problem.
Absolutely. And there's some research done that our relationship with money tends to be formed in our sort of heads before the age of 7. So actually, as an adult, you're coming, into a relationship with all that your experiences, all the things you've heard growing up. And actually, maybe one of you wants to stay really safe and, build up your money, not spend it. And the other one maybe never had money growing up. So now they're earning, is really happy to spend it because, we react in different ways. And some people want to repeat or go away from how they've grown up. But in a couple, it's really about communicating what you actually want to achieve together. Otherwise, I think there'll be friction.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the key with most things, isn't it? Is to sit down and have those conversations rather than avoid them, because they do build up. But I mean, I would be saying that for everything. If something isn't working for you in any relationship or family member, it is so damaging to just stick with the getting it going round and round and round in your own head and not actually feeling, because it builds up resentment, it builds up stress, more stress. So I think, I'm always a big fan of how do you create the space to have these difficult conversations? Or if it's a new relationship, how can you have that conversation, particularly around money, early on?
Well, I don't remember this, but on my first date with my now husband, I apparently told him what I earned. And I think psychologically, I must have been thinking, I've got to put myself out there as someone who, self-sufficient, earning, and doesn't need, to be in this relationship. So that, but it's, I don't know. I don't remember doing that, but he does bring it up every so often.
Does he? Brilliant. I love that. But I think that in itself, let's touch on that, because that is a topic that people do talk about, is, you know, who is earning the most? You know, is it the male, and if it is the male, what's the impact on the female? And then if it's the other way around, which obviously in this day and age it can often be the other way around, what's the impact on that? What kind of things do you hear people say?
Well, unfortunately, the statistics are quite bad when the woman is the breadwinner. I think it can cause, maybe unsaid resentment. Not always, but I think there can be maybe what's the word? I don't know, a sort of a feeling of imbalance, and it might be a threat to the, traditionally it would have been the man in the relationship earning more. So I think, and typically when you find the sort of mental load of the household still falling on the woman, obviously the traditional relationship, then that can, I think, cause more issues.
Definitely. And I think there is, I'm always saying to people, even though women, we're very different today, we've, broken all of the glass ceilings, we've we're there in some ways, and yet we're so not as well. And I'm often talking about, when we're understanding relationships, that the coding that comes from back in the day, from, almost caveman days, where women were in a very different position, that is still within us. But I think particularly within men, that they still have that very kind of hunter-gatherer approach to things. And when that is different, because we're in a different space, it does create problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's something else that I think is important for us to understand is the imbalance around, or the fear around, how much money ties people into situations, whether that be a relationship or just a job, or, that fear. I guess you must hear people talk about that they feel trapped because of their finances, and they can't make the decisions they want to make.
Well, it's interesting because actually sometimes people don't stop to work out what they really need. And, is it true that you have to stay in your job? Is it true that you have to work 5 days a week? I was working with someone recently who's now gone to a 4-day week, and it's, not made an impact really in a monetary way, but actually the amount of freedom, rather than waiting till she retires to start doing the things she enjoys, actually she's now got 1 day a week to herself to do the things now. So I think, similarly, I was talking to a photographer, and I didn't realize it takes a whole day to edit from a shoot. So actually what she's charging for 1 day ends up being 2 days worth of work. So little questions like, what would it be to outsource that editing? It was a fraction of the cost of the day's shoot. So, it's just about finding different ways to, look at the situation and what is true, question what is true, what do you need, what's practical. And quite often it isn't what you think or assume.
And I think, and for me, that's because you are looking at it through the fear lens. So, you're seeing, I can't leave that job. I can't set up my own business. I can't leave that relationship, because you're looking at it through. And I think what you're saying is, if you actually sit down, and I guess you can talk a bit about how you would help somebody, because I'm guessing that that's what you would do. You would actually sit down and get some truth about, okay, what does that look like? How do you want that to be? I guess that's where you come in to help them.
Definitely. And quite a lot of the time, it's not actually about the money. A lot of what I do with people is not about the money. So we'll need the practical element of looking, what do you need? What do you currently spend? What would you like to spend? What would you like to do with your time? And I think an exercise that is really important early on when I'm working with people is looking at what you value. What are the things that when you're kind of on your deathbed, will you be remembering? What are the things that really matter to you? And so that's a really good exercise that, you can do on your own. Get a blank piece of paper, maybe set aside 15 minutes, half an hour, and really visualize what you want and what's important to you, because it might surprise you, and you might see that how you're spending your time, so not just your money, might be taking on a completely different course and actually isn't where you want to be.
I love that. And actually, it's really made me think about time. You mentioned there about, how do you value your time and what time do you want? Because I think so often money gets tied up with people's time. And like you say, what is the most valuable? I don't know, the pandemic has changed some people's views on time, hasn't it? Yeah. And people have taken that plunge of reducing a day or making a big change in maybe in their work situation. I think just pausing and thinking about, what is it, money that I'm focused on, or is it actually quality time? And how do I then balance it out so that I can have what I want and have the life I want?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because you are the one who really is the architect, of your life. And if you think of things being done to you, or that, you're just part of the cogs of something, you can have the power to stop and look at it. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, because once you're trapped in that fear and feeling trapped and that you don't have any options, it's going to spiral, and then it'll probably be another year, another 5 years, and things haven't changed.
What kind of things would, if somebody was listening to this and they, knew that they had questions or fear, all the things that we've talked about, maybe they feel trapped in a job or a relationship, what kind of things would you kind of summarize that you could help them with, and what would it be different working with someone like you?
Well, I typically look at, how someone's living, what they want to achieve. And then quite often an important thing is remembering to sort of look for evidence of things where things are working or something is not working. And I think rather than, as I was saying before, with that lens of fear and actually not stopping to look and evaluate, I think it's really about guiding someone through and asking them, where I come in and I think I help people, it's not often about the money. I know I've said that before, but it'll be more asking the right sort of questions to get them onto the path that they really want to be on. Money is a tool that, pays for things, enables us to know we're going to retire with enough money. But again, it's not the sort of most important thing. Money is often not the goal. It's the money gets you the freedom, the time, whatever you want as your thing, car. Yeah. So I'd say it's I kind of give people the space and the guidance to reflect and then think about where they want to get to.
I like that. And I think just moving it solely away from the money, back in the day, people used to go and have meetings with their bank managers, and I think that that would have given me dread, because obviously that side of it isn't how, I like the way that we're thinking about this, and the way you think about this is that it's sort of the gateway to whatever you want it to be, and how do you plan so that you can have that life, if you like, that you want. Absolutely.
And once we take away the sort of power of the money, and think about sort of what it enables us to do, I think that's when you get real satisfaction, because it's not really to do with the money is the enabler, but it's not the sort of be all and end all.
Yeah, because there is fear, isn't there, around money sometimes. I mean, there are people out there who, when the brown envelopes come, they don't open them because they don't want to know what's in them. And then the thought of that building up is eating away at them, and yet they're not able to, whatever it is, be brave to look. And what kind of mess then do people get into?
Well, so a few of the people I've worked with in debt, the first step is really facing up to the reality, and that can be a big step, but it'll only get worse if you don't face it head on. So those sorts of things will often come because something has happened in the past that was unpleasant to do with money, and you basically still want to avoid it. Yeah. So I would probably in that case, uncover what feelings are coming up and deal with that first, and then think more practically about well, actually, when do you want to be debt free? Some people in debt never even think about when they're going to be debt free because it's just something that they pay the interest every month. And with interest rates as they are, higher than they have been in a long time, I think we're going to see a problem in the country with just people realizing what the debt they're in, that it's going to cost a lot more to have.
So I think the message always has to be there, is as hard as it is, you've got to open those envelopes and find out what your truth is. I mean, I've seen people who, they've had a prescription that they didn't pay for, and then they ignore it, and this thing that was £7 is now £107, and it's terrifying in a way. But what I'm always kind of conscious of is, even though you think you're ignoring it, from a brain perspective, you won't be. It'll be eat, it'll be literally eating away at you, and it then creates other fear, doesn't it, and other problems.
Yeah, my mum worked for the Citizens Advice Bureau. She volunteered there for years, and that's one of my main memories as a child, is her coming home and telling us about people who had taken out loans, credit cards, and not understood what the APR, the sort of rate, meant. So that's definitely impacted me as an adult, not wanting to have any debt, not wanting to borrow, never going into my overdraft, because it's interesting, the things you hear, I'm living proof that when you're growing up, that but just because it's things like store credit cards, when you go into somewhere like Next, so many people do it, and they offer you a little, you'll get a tiny bit off today, and actually that ends up being a lot in the future. So it costs them nothing to give you the 2p off that day, exactly. £20 off. But it's just, I think those sorts of things need a lot more regulation, because it impacts the people who are neediest, basically. Yeah,
it's almost dangerous, isn't it? Because then your bill comes and it says you've got this much to spend, and you haven't got that much to spend at all on the top of your invoice.
Oh, I know. It's appalling. It really is.
It really is dangerous, isn't it? I think one of the things that we've talked about at the beginning, which is all running parallel with all of what we talked about, is how money was presented to us, or how hard work was presented to us when we were young. What was your kind of messages that you were hearing about working hard? And I wonder whether, again, we don't know the answer to this, but as the generations change, how we'll see hard work. For those people who had a paper round and got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and they'll have an ethic or a work pattern around working super hard quite often. But I'm always
sometimes it doesn't serve people to have heard that growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees. If you ask, you don't get. You've got to work really hard, because actually then you see people not ever taking a break and giving them any self-care, self-compassion. It's sort of they keep going on the roller coaster, treadmill. So that's one end of the spectrum that's probably not helping people. It's interesting though, because you might still hear that, and I deal with some people now who are earning a lot more money than their family have ever earned, and they're wondering how can they actually talk to their children about money, because one person had heard their daughter just say, "Oh, my watch is broken, can you get me a new one on Amazon?" And the thought of that is, we'd have waited for Christmas, that'd have been one of the things you could ask for. And the arrival of things in the post from Amazon or wherever online is so prevalent now that actually our children don't really see money very often, because it's all on cards, and it's going to be totally different. So going back to the sort of hard work and seeing how you can now earn money, think of the YouTubers, people make money on TikTok, all these things but those people are sort of still in the minority. There are still a lot of people doing their jobs with hourly rates and people earning. So I think it's not going to be a complete shift, but I do think it's how you talk to your children will probably impact them more than you think.
Definitely. And that would be the same for anything, because children are modeling and picking up. And I think you said they will either fall into that type, or some people make the complete opposite around what they heard, and they go off down in a different path. And I think for me, it's just checking that whatever it is that you are, your thoughts, your behaviors are, is that they are not, almost disabling yourself in your future, whether that is around money or just, like you say, not pausing, not taking breaks. I see that a lot.
I bet you do. Yeah,
definitely. So tell everyone where they can find you. They would like to look at you on socials and things.
Oh, thank you. So I'm at Philly Financial on Instagram, and my website is phillyfinancial.co.uk.
Brilliant. And we will put those in the tag when we put it out on socials. So have you got a last little tip before we finish, Philly?
Well, I would always say, talk to people about money. It should not be taboo. If you can communicate, be open, be honest, I think you'll be surprised at actually how reassured you'll feel, how it will improve your relationships, friends, family. I think, communicate.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
And I think the other thing about that, which again, I'm always saying, is when you talk, it just reminds you that you're not on your own. Because when we're on our own with our thoughts, the way that we're wired, we end up getting all mixed up. We catastrophize. We make it all 10 times harder than it actually is. And actually just saying, gosh, I'm stuck with this, or how can I help? And this, I'm sure your socials and things have got lots of tips, lots of things that you can pick up on. There's lots of ways of getting little tips to realize that you're not on your own, and that there is a way that you can make this better.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening and sharing in this episode of Mental Wealth. Remember, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcast. My last question to you is, what is the one small thing that you can take action on from this episode? Message me on Instagram or through our website with questions you'd like me to explore. You'll find the links in the show notes. I'll be back with more tools and tips to make sense of your mind in the next episode. In the meantime, be kind to yourself. Bye for now.